Nights have a way of changing the world. Streets that seem harmless in daylight twist into something unwelcoming. When the sun dips away, the same houses, the same sidewalks, the same storefronts, all of it shifts. Even silence feels heavier, almost watchful, like it's carrying secrets you aren't meant to know. I've always thought about that when I'm out after midnight. It doesn't matter if it's a crowded downtown street or a deserted stretch of road on the edge of the suburbs. Everything feels different, like reality itself is thinner at night. And for years, I told myself it was just in my head, just fatigue, just imagination. That was before last October. That was before Evan. I spend most of my nights behind the wheel for Uber. What began as a side hustle has, 3 years later, turned into my life. Driving through the city while everyone else sleeps, picking up the ones who can't get themselves home, too drunk, too tired, too reckless to risk it. In that time, I've seen fights break out in my back seat, watched couples unravel mid-ride, and even had to pull over so someone could vomit on the curb. But nothing prepared me for the night. I picked up the passenger who shouldn't have existed. It was a Friday, the kind of night when the city feels alive with chaos. The bars had been spilling people into the streets since midnight, and surge pricing made it worth sticking around. I remember checking the clock on my dash, 2:13 a.m. I told myself I'd take one more ride and call it a night. The request popped up almost instantly. Pick up, Evan. Location, an old strip mall on the very edge of town. That gave me pause. People don't usually order rides from strip malls at 2 in the morning. They call from crowded sidewalks, parking lots, gas stations, but not from places that look like they've been abandoned for decades. Still, it was a decent fare, and the thought of ending the night with a little extra cash pulled me in. So, I accepted. The drive out there felt longer than it should have. My GPS took me down stretches of road that grew emptier with each turn, past warehouses with rusted doors and vacant lots where weeds had swallowed fences. By the time I reached the strip mall, I had the uneasy sense of being alone in a place the world had forgotten. The parking lot stretched out like a black sea, cracked pavement illuminated only by a few buzzing lamps overhead. Storefronts, with broken signs, lined the edges, their windows either dark or covered with plywood. The only movement came from a neon liquor store sign at the far corner, stuttering to stay alive with an irritating buzz. And then, I saw him. He was standing alone near the curb, directly under one of the flickering lights. His hood was pulled up over his head, hands buried deep in the pockets of a faded sweatshirt. He didn't move until I slowed the car. He didn't check his phone, didn't pace the way most people do when they're waiting. He just stood perfectly still, like a mannequin left behind. Something about that stillness made the hairs on my arms rise. When I pulled closer, he raised one hand in a slow, deliberate wave. Then, he stepped toward the car and slid into the back seat without a word. The first thing I noticed was the cold. The night air had already been sharp, but the moment he opened the door, the temperature seemed to plummet. I saw my breath fog the windshield, even though the heater had been running. "Heading home?" I asked, forcing my voice into a casual rhythm. He nodded once. No words. His face, half hidden by the hood, was pale under the dashboard glow. His expression was unreadable, his eyes distant, as if fixed on something far beyond the car. The app listed a destination, about 15 minutes away, a small residential street I vaguely recognized. I put the car in gear and pulled out of the lot. The ride was silent, not the normal kind of silence where people scroll through their phones or doze off. This was heavier, pressing in on the cabin of the car until every sound, the tires on asphalt, the hum of the engine seemed amplified. I tried to break it. "Long night?" I asked. He murmured something, but it was too faint, swallowed by the hum of the road. His lips moved, but the sound didn't quite reach me. I let the silence return. Every few seconds, I glanced at the rearview mirror. He never looked at me. His head stayed turned toward the window, eyes fixed on the darkness, rushing past. But I had the unsettling impression that he wasn't watching the world outside. He was listening to something I couldn't hear. When we turned onto the street listed in the app, the houses looked dead. Dark windows, empty driveways. Not a single porch light glowing. The place seemed drained of life, like a forgotten corner of the city. His stop was a small sagging house at the end of the block. The paint peeled in strips, and the porch leaned dangerously to one side. I slowed to a stop at the curb. "This it?" I asked, though my gut already knew the answer. He leaned forward, and for the first time, I heard his voice clearly, soft, almost pleading. "Can you wait here a minute? I'll be right back." Before I could respond, he opened the door and stepped out. His movements were deliberate, too controlled, like he was careful not to disturb the silence around him. He walked up the cracked driveway and vanished into the shadows near the front door. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. No lights came on in the house. No movement. Nothing. I tapped a message into the app, asking if he was still coming. It bounced back immediately. Number unavailable. The unease in my chest deepened into something heavier. Against every instinct telling me to stay in the car, I got out and walked toward the porch. The air grew colder with each step, pressing against me until it was hard to breathe. I knocked. After a long pause, the door creaked open. An older woman appeared, wrapped in a bathrobe, her face heavy with sleep. She squinted at me. "Can I help you?" "I'm sorry to bother you," I said, trying to sound normal. "I just dropped someone off here. Evan, does he live here?" Her frown deepened. "There's no Evan here. Just me and my husband. You must have the wrong house." I held up my phone, showing her the app with the address glowing on the screen. She glanced at it, and her face drained of color. "We've lived here 30 years, she whispered. "Never heard of him." Then she shut the door quickly, leaving me standing alone on the porch. The silence felt unbearable now, thick with something I couldn't name. I turned back to my car. When I opened the back door, my stomach dropped. His phone was lying on the seat. The Uber app was still open, glowing faintly. The seatbelt was buckled, but the seat was empty, like he'd vanished, without ever unclicking it. I drove straight to the police station. They took the phone, reviewed the app logs, and came back with answers that only made the night worse. The account had been created less than an hour before the ride, paid with a card that didn't exist, and the profile photo? It matched a missing persons report. A college student named Evan, vanished 3 years earlier after leaving a friend's house. No body. No leads. Just gone. I told them what I'd seen. Swore he was in my car, flesh and blood. But when they pulled footage from my dash cam, I nearly fainted. The back seat was empty the entire ride. They looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was, but I can still feel the weight of that night. The way the cold clung to the air. The way silence pressed on me like a living thing. Sometimes, when I drive past midnight, I catch a glimpse in the rearview mirror. Just a blur, a shadow, like someone sitting quietly in the back, waiting to be taken home. I don't pick up rides after 2 a.m. anymore. Not after Evan. Because some passengers don't just disappear from the car, they disappear from the world.